as
Hello.
we enter. Hello. How are you this morning, Kitty?
I am well. Actually, I'm going to say that. I feel very happy and content this morning. And we're going to start this with a shout out to our dear friend Jeanette.
Yes. Yes. Blessings of love and healing, restoration, relaxation, reset. Whew.
Um, yes. So Jeanette Byro, medium, um, has is getting a different kind of upgrade, ascension, change, very, very physical. And we're thinking of you and holding that healing space. And that kind of goes along with our power of discernment thing
Oh,
we're talking about.
so
Um,
much.
you know, how do we help? Sometimes it's just holding the space. And what allows us when we hold space, we've talked about this before, is then I establish my own boundary. And
Oh,
that is a difficult thing at times to learn, is how do I hold my own boundary and not, we can use all kinds of heals, crystals, all kinds of things to protect us, and really learning how to hold the space protects us, because it allows me to really hold the space for you to be where you are by holding the space of where I am. So I think
yeah.
it's
There's a power in that, Kitty. There's a power in
mhm,
that because jumping on a plane with a casserole isn't necessarily the best choice.
right, right. And you know, like in our friend Jeanette's, there's not much we can do except send healing and hold the space for her to have her healing journey. You know, reaching out. I learned some of that really young when I lost my mother, and I watched what unfolded be how everybody in sympathy and grief comes together. And you just revisited this a couple days ago, and then they all go back to their lives, and yours is permanently changed. So having all these other people around with great intentions,
Mm.
um, isn't holding the space necessarily for you. And knowing that people hold the space and check in, and even if they just bop in and out, those were the people that were very helpful.
Yeah.
They just were. Yeah.
Yeah. I know it was days after Em passed, and we had a plethora of people on the patio of the home that we had rented in Kelowna. And when I wrote about that for the first time, I called them a mass of mongrels. Sounded fierce, and yet that's exactly how I felt. I was in one corner, alone, trying to process, trying to respond to people, trying to prove to myself that Emily was in heaven, and I needed physical proof. And I got a beautiful picture that my friend, she got a message, Tina Lee got a message, and it said, "In heaven, check your Facebook." So I'm scrolling. And then finally, I found a picture that I had captioned "In heaven." And it was a picture of the lake in front of me. Like, I'm here, mom. I'm here.
Mhm.
I know you can't feel me. I could begin to hear her 3 days after I started smelling cotton candy bubble gum. And I was the only one, right? Like it was such a ugh, experience, and it's a challenge to be in that place, alone, lonely, trapped in turmoil, and yet have people that want to help. They don't know how. And if
Right.
you follow your
And
heart,
right, hold the space. Um, to hold the space allows them to be hurt, trapped, all of those things, um, because it keeps my emotions out of this, other than healing. I'm creating a space that's safe for you to be all of those things. And it's not about me. I'm not looking for the right words. It's literally my presence, that is what is needed, And it's all right to say to people, I don't know what to say. I'm just here for you. I'm holding the space.
Oh
So,
gosh, I remember when Tanya, my dear friend, I was on the deck, patio space, and she was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she came over with a glass of wine and a bowl of fruit. Have you eaten yet today? No. Here.
yeah,
And I ate and drank the wine. I mean, it was what I needed. And so often when we're looking through discernment, we are looking through the patterns of our own behavior. This is what I believe is best for you.
right. Eh,
Ah,
Right. And discernment really is a personal thing. Someone else today wrote about humility. Um, they're both very personal energies. Humility, and this is what I said to her when I reposted her reading, is about wonderment and knowing I don't know everything and being okay with both of those. That's true humility. Discernment is also wondering what I should do,
mm,
weighing out my options, and being okay with what I try. Not about anybody else's rules. What, when I truly in discernment, today has a lot of discernment in it. When I truly look at what is going to expand me, what are these small things that are going back and forth to nurture, that's today's energy. It's about me in my quiet, being humble. So they're very related. So when I look at humility, boy, I wonder about this, and I don't really know what the answer is. So I'm going to feel what feels best to me. There's my discernment in that moment. It's taking the time to respond. That is discernment. It's, you
oh,
know,
yeah, just that like this, like literally just like put a yap trap on it. So often, oh, you're not going to work today? That there's a tone.
mhm,
You're not going to work today? There's a tone. Hmm.
yeah,
Nothing. What are you going to do today?
you know,
Yeah.
right. It discernment. I mean, and that's what we're getting a lot of practice right now for whatever this thing that's coming up is let me really look, because my response, my experience to that response, or my experience and how I respond to it creates my reality. And I need time to create my reality, to make the choice, to make the decision, to look at my options. And that doesn't mean that there's a right and wrong way to do it. It's about my rights, what is right, my rules, my truths in the moment, using discernment. And that's that. I really think a lot of it comes to honing in our ability to assess. What am I using as my measurements when I assess what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, the weather vane.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
weather vane. Do you have one? Is that what you're using? What is the temperature in your space? What is the weather like outside? And it's this unconditional positive regard for others. When I walk into a room, I have an expectation about how people will be. And I have no business with that. I don't know what it's going to be like when I walk out of a room into another room.
Hmm.
Don't know for a fact. I don't know what an office environment is going to be like. I don't know what an airport is going to be like. I have no idea what kind of a mood the pilot is in. I don't know for sure. And I can set myself up for incredible failure by thinking that a person is going to show up as they were. Do you ever notice that, Kitty, when you've got someone in your life that was yucky, and then you see them years later at a high school reunion?
Hmm.
I've changed. Perhaps they have. We've all changed.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I finished that. And sometimes people go in and out of their different personalities. And so
Mm.
who shows up today? You know?
Oh gosh, that's a true fact, man. Add the right spice into an environment, man, and I show up. Right? Could you imagine that? Here I am up on stage. I'm really excited to be in Saskatoon on Friday. And then for a moment, oh boy, in walks character number 54 in my story. And I'm like, oh my God, right?
Well,
Interesting.
right. And that goes back to that discernment, that power of discernment. If character 54 is an activator in your life, my discernment practice is, how am I going to respond because my environment is not matching? Because I'm in this space, this person walks in, and I'm now in this space, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Here's my power of discernment. You know, do I feel differently about this person in this space? I actually do, because I'm looking, and if I could do that in every space, wow, what a power that would be.
Well, and it's funny that Spirit said character 54 because that's area 54.
Ah, yes.
Right? So
Right.
cool. Area 54 is in America, in the desert.
Outside of Las Vegas, yes.
Outside of Las Vegas. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I'm geographically, I sometimes believe I'm closer to people than I am. So I had a friend of mine in Saskatchewan. They're going to be home on Saturday. So I'm like, okay. I'm looking at the maps while I'm on the phone. My son, I'm like, and he's like, and he just let me look. Right? And I'm like, I ain't going there. That's 14 hours. He's like, yeah, mom, it's 14 hours. And it's Saskatchewan. So it's like flat. I'm like,
Well,
sounded fun.
well, and here's the difference. So I live in the East Coast of the States. All right. I am 6 hours away from my youngest son. And that in the East Coast is a huge amount. It will also mean traffic. That's part of it, because he's leaving Connecticut. They have to go through Massachusetts. Maine is not a populous state, except in the summertime, it's an invasion. So it's a lot of traffic because people love Maine, but they love it in the summer, not so much in the winter. So, and there's only one main way into Maine and one main way out. So you're
Oh,
going to,
that's Kelowna. Kelowna's the same, kitty. One highway. And when it gets
yeah,
bottlenecked,
yeah, it backs up for hours. So now going out to Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, 6 hours is their view of that is, well, that's it. This is Montana. This is Wyoming. We drive long distances out here because geographically it's so large. Again, we go back to discernment. What does it mean for me in this moment? You know, I was going to meet a friend in Montana. She ended up not being able to come because of injury. And it actually worked out well, because the moment she was actually supposed to be coming, the well had run dry, and that would have just been more, and so, but she was like, no, 6 hours is no big deal. Now, the same 6 hours for other people is like, oh yeah, and I am not a person that loves to sit in traffic. So I will get up at 3:00 in the morning so I can fly through where there would be traffic. That would be more,
I'm the
I,
same. Yeah.
yeah, but again, this is what discernment is about. This is what for me is important in that moment, and
Yes.
using all of the factors around us. So in Montana, 6 hours was like, oh yeah, great. 6 hours from Connecticut to Maine, oh, not so great, depending what you're willing to do. And yet there are other people who on a regular basis, I remember when I lived on Peaks Island, there was a couple who came up every weekend from somewhere in New York. It was at least 4 hours. But to them, that was no big deal to get to, they were going to an island, get on the ferry boat. So our discernment has to do with our values. what it is that is important to us in the moment, in the situation that we're in.
Oh my gosh. And we have husbands. And when I travel with my guy, I call him my guy. We're engaged on Facebook. We've been together for 10 years. So we're common law. Like there's so many. Like, I mean, I feel like it's complicated. So when we travel, Ralph can travel with a backpack. He's totally fine. I have many things I enjoy bringing with me, and some things that right now in my life are extremely important. I've got this lovely necky bag thing. It's a bean bag, and I use it. I scrunch it up and put it in front of my computer so that I can rest my elbows on it, and or my forearms or anything. I can't sit in a meeting without this. I've got a blanket in my vehicle to roll up so I can rest my arm while I'm driving. These are things that are very important to me. And Ralph doesn't understand because he's not me. And he's able to understand that I need my stuff. Because I'm not a nice person if I'm in pain. I'm nasty. I'm so nasty. And I'm nasty in here to me first. So with discernment, I can be aware. Nance, got everything that you need, sweetie?
Mm-hmm.
That inner child dialogue. I have understood that. There are certain times when I'm in the store and there's a chocobar. And when I say chocobar, it's little Nancy talking, and Nancy wants a chocobar. And I buy it, and I've been putting them in my gift baskets. I just want to buy the chocobar. If I've got it nearby, I'm okay. I was like that when I migrated away from marijuana. As long as I had a joint, I was good. Didn't need to smoke it. But I had to have it nearby me. I felt safe. I felt secure.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we need in our lives. And we are so often judged by another. How dare I judge you?
Yeah, I said this to somebody last night. When I was a kid, there was a poem I learned, though I'm not even sure the second part I didn't add to it, but the line is, nobody sees what I can see, for back of my eyes there is only me, and nobody knows what I can know, for I can only hear my soul. And that to me is discernment, exactly what you're talking about. How I do things is up to me. How you do, my own life is barely my business, let alone your life, with discernment and working on those. And the power of discernment is the power to own who I am and be willing to explore it, respond to it, be a part of it, do all of those pieces of it. And discernment allows a freedom of space between us.
Yes. Yes, a beautiful freedom of space. And it's like this beautiful virtual call.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, I'm able to respect your boundaries. I mean, can't get there. Wait. There we go. Right?
Yeah.
Space, right? I can't get into your space. And that's important. That's what the Great Reset taught us, that there are boundaries that we can respect, and how often we disrespect those boundaries. We could go political here, Kitty.
Oh, please, let's not. I have been talking to people
Bloods and Crips.
about
Bloods and Crips, Kitty. Which one are you?
I'm the person writing the song for West Side Story. That's who I am.
I've never seen West Side Story. What does that mean?
Oh, one of their dances they start with this, and it's about gangs, and all kinds of things. Yes,
Oh, oh,
James.
oh, oh, oh.
Oh,
Oh, so
yeah,
so it's like warriors come out to play.
yeah. Like it. Yeah, it's a. That's actually what ends up happening is um,
Outsiders.
outsiders, the prejudice, and
Every single daytime drama.
and we really are working on changing that. That is what this
Yes.
new vibration is. So I went to a really interesting symposium this weekend. It was called Beyond the Veil. Wonderful people put that on. And I really enjoyed it. When you go to something called Beyond the Veil, you're going to hear about galactics, and people are going to study ancient text. It's not, if you're a real want things mainstream, whatever.
Mm.
I found the speakers to be very, very enlightening and enjoyable. And it's not a but. And there was, and I gave this feedback, so it's nothing I haven't shared. To one of the promoters, though I guess he wasn't officially a co-host, and he works often with the co-host. So, was that about the no politics? Be aware with discernment what you say. Is it important enough to tie it into your topic of amazing information that you want to share and go over? An example of that is, very casually, one of the speakers was talking about this timeline and this great awakening time we had where we all got to slow down. No matter what you think of it, that's what we got to do. How you responded to it was somewhat about your discernment. And the person said something like, we all, 2020, we had we all had to be home. We were looking at all these things, great awakening. And as I like to call it, the scamdemic. And I was like, click. I left the presentation.
Yep, just like that. Because that undermined so many people. So many people.
Right.
And we have to be so much more generous with our hearts.
Well, and the thing is that if you need to put this with your information, then what's the screen you're taking this through? And with my discernment, this isn't about them. If they need to do it, this is about them. My discernment was, I do not I wanted to hear your information, not your politics. And if you thought that there was a greater thing going on, you may think that. Is that affecting what you're telling me?
How are they weaved together? When we write a essay, there's the beginning, the middle, and the end. Current affairs are very important. When I was in grade 12, back in the space age, 1987, and I had the opportunity to apply for a scholarship. My beautiful counselor helped me with that. And when I went before the panel, they asked me about current affairs. I knew nothing. Nothing, Kitty. I didn't turn on the news. I had no idea about the current affairs in my city, my country. Wow. There is such a beauty in understanding what is going on in your community. We have a beautiful walk here in Edmonton for overdose awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful opportunity to come together, to understand how fentanyl poisoning can take away from the life of a family. Fentanyl poisoning, alcohol poisoning, drug poisoning,
Right.
different vibration.
Right. And just with discernment, what is my intention? That is what discernment allows us. What's the intention here? If my intention is to talk with information, I can know about the current event was the pandemic. My interpretation of that is just that. With discernment, that does that really have anything to do with what I am speaking about? There was another one that was talking about all of these magical places and energy and blah, 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 and very casually said, we don't want to bring, and named two individuals who are famous and said, you wouldn't want to bring them down there. Click. First of all, one of the individuals I don't have such a big problem with. That's on me. Whatever. If you're telling me spirit calls and all, this is what this was about, why are you, again, this is not my person to get information from. And that's what it boiled down to. That's my discernment. That was my assessment. This is not my person to get information about, because I'm really looking for people who are using discernment. I'm trying to learn about the power of discernment. And so I respect those that work with discernment, or at
Yes.
least working at it.
Yes.
And an expectation for me is, and this is my assessment, is I don't want to know, I shouldn't walk away from your presentation about galactics knowing your politics.
Unless you are somehow planning a galactic experience and raising money for politics.
Right. And
if you're doing that,
and even if now, if you say to me, telling a story, the United States would not release information, that's a fact.
Yes.
And we're not sure of all of the pieces. That's a fact. I mean, I'm a great believer in what Byron Katie talks about, non-judgment. And non-judgment, now what I had to wrestle with is there is a difference between judgment and assessment. So me turning off the presenter was not about the presenter. If the presenter needs to put this in their presentation, then for me, this is, again, not my person. You do you, boo. That's fine. I caution people in seminaries and things to be thinking about discernment. Who is your audience? You don't know if somebody in there didn't lose an entire family during that period of time.
You don't know. You don't know. And there was such terrible heartache. The trauma, the tendency to attack, it was built into our days, dependent upon what we watched, what we listened to, how we reacted based on what happened the day before. I mean, shopping was not fun.
Right. You
going to the bank was just
well, and for me, the assessment is this a person who's my person to bring information? It is not resonating. I'm listening to you, and I was like, no, that's not where I'm going to go with this, because at that point, I'm going to own it. I was activated. So everything was coming through that screen. And since I was there to learn, again, what's the intention? I was there to learn. I wasn't there to debate. I was there to hear about what you had to say. Could I have take what I liked and left the rest? Absolutely. But in that moment, my discernment was, that's not what I'm going to do, for me. And that's becoming more and more true for my discernment. Is it's not that I have to find completely like-minded people. I am looking for people who can help me use my discernment, who, and that was an opportunity. That was an opportunity to look at, how do I want to respond? I don't want to sit here and fight with my own head about, I wanted the information. And so I already knew, knowing myself and accepting myself, that I own this. I'm going to be suspect because I'm already triggered by this. So, okay, go on from there. Hey, Dusty. And so it's a really interesting, the power of discernment, the power to understand. I assessed. We can look at the same story differently. And for me, the assessment is about, how am I responding to this? Is this helping me move forward? That doesn't mean I don't I leave everything that doesn't go exactly with what I think. No, it depends what my goal was, what my intention was, what we're doing. So, it's
Well, it's that playlist of life. I have a very beautiful playlist on my Spotify. I really enjoy it. I've got different categories and different libraries. And when I listen to my Audible in my vehicle while I'm driving, I need to turn the volume up. And then when my Spotify comes on, it's loud. And I rolled up to vent. Spirit's so funny. Bong did a bond, 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 diddy, 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 a little bit of Kid Rock in the house. It's hilarious, right? And I'm like, just turn that down a little bit. And I had somebody like, oh my God, I love Kid Rock too. I love so much of the lyrical prose of that music. Lyrics are extremely powerful for me. I also like Metallica. And Anne Murray, You Needed Me. Oh,
right.
like such a like Anne Murray, Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful lyrics.
Yep. No, I
Like
understand.
me,
Love
right?
the song. I love the song Every Rose Has a Thorn because of
Yes,
the lyrics. And that is um oh
Pantera.
yes, baby. Yeah, Pantera. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, you know, right now, astrologically, because that's why we do this together, we are looking at our response. We have a beautiful window of time to practice our response, because what I'm hearing is some things are coming up that we're really, if we're trying to learn about kindness and we're looking at how there has been a, what's the word I want? Non-civility acceptance of,
Mm.
um, and we want to go back to civility doesn't mean I don't say things. It means how I say that. There's the discernment again, the assessment. And we are in a time, Venus has been a huge player this month. Venus, if it hasn't been Venus herself, she's in Virgo. And in Virgo, she's kind of like this. Like all these little pieces, I want things to balance. I want things to be about my values. And she's literally flying things off the scale. They're moving back and forth, and she's trying to stabilize. So it's called her fall position. But she has been active, active, active to say, we're taking these things out. We're looking at all of these pieces. What is beautiful? What do I value? And with all the Gemini energy that is here, how do I want to respond? I have a great opportunity. Mercury retrograde in Leo is sitting here asking me who I am. How do I want to respond? Mercury's in charge of that experience. How is it coming out of my mouth? And if I don't know, there's my discernment. I don't know. That's what I'm learning about. Today, especially, there happens to be a square with two planets today, Venus being one of them, and Neptune with the moon. What am I going to nurture about myself? What am I going to, the moon is in Cancer. What am I going to intuitively pay attention to? And Venus and Neptune today are going back and forth. What does Spirit want me to do? What do I value and find beautiful? And I'm going back and forth trying to find that conversation between beauty, value, and what Spirit has been asking me to do. Even in my own definition of Spirit, have I limited, this is the way Spirit wants me to do it? Really? With discernment, let me figure out what that next step is. Again, my own life is sometimes barely my business, let alone somebody else's. The power of discernment, the power to pause, to pick how I want to respond. That is where we are right now. What a wonderful time. We get to practice it. It's been quite the Mercury retrograde, I will say, this time, And by the way, Mercury goes direct today. It goes direct today in Leo, and it will start. This will be the third time it's gone over this last degrees of Leo, who I am, and the pieces I'm putting together heads back into Virgo. So And whatever the September piece that's coming is, this is a time to kind of align with discernment. What is the reality I am creating? What have I created
Oh,
in my head?
mhm.
Therefore, I'm creating outside of me.
Well, because when you say something's coming in September, where does the mind go? It's different for each of us.
Mm-hmm.
Something important is coming. Do we go to fear? Do we go to faith? Are we somewhere in between? Is a waterfall of all?
Right. Since we don't know what the something that is coming is, do we call it something wicked this way is coming, or something is coming as a gift, as an opening, as an awakening?
Yeah.
And it's our reality, how we approach that. Again, the discernment. It's very natural to be a little fearful of change. Now we
Mhm.
have Uranus, the planet of chaos, going retrograde. So it's headed inward to awaken all of this energy at the very same day that Pluto on September 1st dips back into Capricorn. That's a really important thing. It is dipping back at the karmic reset. We are resetting our own structure internally first, as it then goes direct externally. Again, we are creating this. I like to quote I put from Donna Campbell had out the abundance of the soul. Abundance starts in the mind but grows in the soul. I
Oh,
really thought that
gorgeous.
that was an amazing way to think of it, making sure I quoted it correctly. So I'm looking at my phone and it's not loading. That doesn't surprise anybody. It is Mercury retrograde. Abundant begins in the mind and flourishes in the soul.
Wow.
I think that is for that's the book we're doing in the group. I know you've got it. You know, but that makes sense. The abundance, the reality starts in the mind. And as my soul brings that energy forward, let me create it,
Oops,
begins in
not
the
twice.
mind and flourishes in the soul. Yeah. I think
Abundance
it's,
or abundance?
huh?
Abundant or abundant?
Abundance. ANCE. You were right. Abundance. Um, and that makes sense. How I talk to myself, how I respond. And response is also I'm not here to deny my feelings, but do I have to label them as negative? I get activated. Oh, um, what is, as Donna says, what is the energy under the thought? So as I'm
Oh, the
activated,
iceberg, the iceberg.
right, what is under that activation, the physical activation?
Yeah.
Uh, recently I had I think I talked about a week ago, an activation. My first thought is, I don't want to be activated. I didn't. And I was, so there was something else to learn. So let me, in my discernment, okay, there's something else to learn rather than me beating myself up. Don't feel that way. Why are you being, all right. Yes. And I can acknowledge, ultimately, I'd like not to be activated. I'd like to scroll on by. And I go back and think of how many things now I scroll on by that at one time I would have, been a
Oh,
part of.
it's truly tremendous. When you talk today about that internal way of feeling, I'm spending most of my day in my home today because of the packing I need to do and some tidying and things like that. So I'm wearing my very comfy blue leggings. They've got comfy pockets. Everything about them is fabulous. And then I quickly grabbed a shirt out of my closet because I was at a Zoom, time zones, man. All of a sudden it bings on my phone as I'm talking to myself. I'm like, oh my God, the meeting's at 7:30. I gotta go. So away I went and I was grabbing a shirt because I wanted to put a shirt on my body before the Zoom started. So I just grabbed a black shirt because I wanted black specific. Black sometimes allows me to deflect. It just keeps me in a really good space. And I grabbed a shirt that says, yeah,
That's what I'm holding today. Yeah.
yeah. And this is what my shirt says.
I feel beautiful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Like as a little
Beautiful.
kid, beautiful.
Beautiful. And it's got a picture of a baby Buddha on it.
Ah,
It is so cute, right? And it helps me remember where my focus is today on creating beauty. Beauty is the eye of the beholder. I was reminded on the call this morning that no matter what
Venus, right? Beauty.
beauty, no matter what I put out, my memoir is going to publishers getting it. Like it's on the tray. I'm just doing some more editing, and she will have it by the 30th, which was my agreement date. And then it'll be going out to those who have chosen to be a part of the launch team and get the pre-read. And there will be errors.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be errors when it publishes too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was telling somebody about a book from the Trail of Tears to the Star People. It has 2 chapter 11s in it.
And some people look for those errors, Kitty. They'll circle it, they'll underline it. I did that. I was that some person because I was reading and
right.
I would see an error, so I would circle it. And then I'd send an email sometimes off to the publisher because it can be corrected if they choose.
Yeah. And now, especially now, it's a lot easier than when they had a printing press and, you know, well, I had parents that if I sent home a newsletter, if there was a mistake in it, honestly, they would circle it and send it back. And there were times that activated me, like, really? Did you read it? Depending who the parent was, especially. Did you get the information about it? As a teacher, time saving sometimes was to correct as you were reading, but then you missed the meaning.
Yes. That is so beautifully true. With discernment, when we can go to the feeling place, I've started playing around with the idea of the audible for my memoir. And I know exactly where I want to go and who I want to be with during that precious moment. Like, I mean, so excited. And I'm hopeful that they will be available. Hopeful. If they aren't, I mean, do I suddenly not speak to my brother? What do you mean you're not available for me? Don't you know who I am?
Right. Yeah.
Really, right. Nance?
You know, and to be forgiving of yourself, I love what Dusty had to say. Another level of healing becomes activated. And that is really very true. And actually, the story I'm talking about, she actually knows what it was. And yes, there was another level of healing because with discernment and assessment, especially because discernment is assessment, it is still impacting me. There's something else for me to learn from this. Something else, just like my brothers. At first I get indignant. I've been activated. Is there something like, really, Nance? So let's look at what's under that. Is it that I wanted to spend time with him and I didn't get myself together to let him know? Or is it I don't feel prioritized by him?
And then how do I behave?
Right.
The group coaching that I'm a part of, our homework was to look at when we are activated and how we respond. Right. So when I'm activated in a way where I tell you something and you may not necessarily your tone of voice or something says to me, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe you're mad at me. The knee jerk, depending upon the person, like with Ralph, I'll say something and I'm like, I hear that and I'm like, do you want me to bake cookies tonight? How can I make you feel better? Do you like me? Do you still like me? Right? And I sit with that, right? Like, maybe I can wash his shower. If I wash the shower, then he'll be happy. All the things that I can do to make sure that he's happy. Wow. Still doing that, Nance? Yeah, a little bit. Not as much.
Right. But the power of discernment is, how do I get there? If I've how did I get down? You and I talk about this. I'm going down the well and I'm taking a friend and a flashlight. I know I'm going, I'm here. Discernment allows me to go, that's really not how I want to keep reacting. So, as Dusty says, another level of healing comes from being activated to go, oh, it's still here. The discernment of how I want to respond. That's what it's discernment is, how we look at an experience and respond to it, you know?
Yes.
And it is such the power of that to know that that is what I'm working on. I'm not doing it perfectly. Some days I'm going to snap. Some days I'm still going to be worried about washing Ralph the shower.
Well,
you
and
know?
that's it too. It depends so much about the way that we choose to respond.
Yep.
And that's not always super duper funny for people.
Right.
I was talking about that at an event, and I had some people that were like, "I don't drink."
Okay.
And very, very proud of the fact that they don't drink, and unwilling, to accept the gift that I was gifting.
Yep.
Because they didn't drink, and I'm like, "That's interesting. You can give that to someone else," and I'm like, "Thank you. I'll take it back," and I gave it to the, event organizer because she loves wine, so anything that's got to do with either kind of whining and a joke, it's
And
hilarious to
the
her.
discernment around that is okay. Because
Oh,
I actually thought of that when you said wine less, because I always talk about the word bottle. For some people, bottle is water.
yes.
It's something you give your baby, and other people have activation around it, whether it's
Wow.
drinking, all of those things. And again, with our power of discernment, okay, that activated you, and it activated me that it activated you. So now what is the discernment I have? Okay, I'll take it back and I'll
Yeah.
move on. Or like the parent who circled my newsletter, sometimes I'd be like, really? You don't have anything better to do? You know, like,
Oh,
uh,
for sure. And
yeah,
because I've got such a fabulous life filled with so many layers of addiction and my the dynamics of my family. My dad has been sober for a very long time. My brother's sober for 24 years this year. When there is an event, my dad still takes a shot of anywhere that we go. He clearly identifies in the beginning or during that moment, Fresca. My brother chooses San Pellegrino water. I'm not
mm-hmm,
sure about my other brother if he drinks because I know it was drugs for him, and for me, I'm like tequila. I don't have an issue with alcohol, and it's so interesting when our family goes out because there's so much of this. Like, I thought your dad was drunk. He's so much fun. No, 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 no. My dad's fun because he's not drunk.
yeah,
He
mm-hmm,
wasn't that much fun before because Fun Bob went to, "Ugh, here we go."
yeah,
And it wasn't fun for everybody involved. And that's when the discernment comes. Who am I showing up at the party as? Am I so unaware? And it's okay. It's okay if I am. If I go in, oh, mom showed up again without a t-shirt on. Jeez.
yeah,
Wrong event.
right. It is just like the person this weekend, not my people. And actually, when I said that, they said, oh, they're probably not your people. I'm like, you're probably right. And I have begun, not completely there yet, to not be on myself like, you should be able to get along with everybody. And then because if somebody rejects me, what's wrong with me? That's the same. That is actually the same thought pattern. I should be able to give people they can be who they are. And if they don't like me, it's versus, yeah,
What's wrong with them? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with me? We do. And I'm reading a beautiful book, and this is a book that I'm considering having as a book share, Surrounded by Idiots.
hmm.
Who's at the door?
My husband is, I think, hanging something, which
Okay.
also has me wondering with discernment. I'm not there. So I would prefer to be there as we hang those things because they're decorative. So it's like,
And that may indicate what color you are. I've learned about that with the Surrounded by Idiots. I listened to it on Audible first, and then I ordered it. And I wasn't, I mean, I don't even really like the word idiots. And it was brought to my attention about a different style of learning that was more of a kinetic feeling person that talks about their feelings. And I'm like, okay, ooh, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of green, and the strengths and weaknesses in every character type that we have. Being a feeling person is wonderful. And it can really, the empath. I'm an empath. I feel everything.
mm-hmm.
Ooh, that sounds painful.
At times it can be. I'd like what Dusty had to say. Some people are not an energetic match, and maybe that's just a lesson involved. Yep, people come into our life for a lesson, a season, or a reason, a season, and a lifetime. You
Oh,
know,
for sure. For sure. I
yep,
mean, that's why there's so many beautiful songs about turn the page.
right,
Take this job and shove it. I ain't
right,
working here no more. I had a lot
yeah,
of those songs on my playlist for a while.
and that's the power of discernment. Not to make it they're bad, I'm good. I'm bad, they're good. None of that. It's just not an energetic match. That's my lesson sometimes, is in a boundary to walk away from them. That's actually the lesson, to go, oh, I don't have to either diminish myself and raise them, or
Yeah.
diminish them and raise myself. That is the power of discernment. It can just be. This
Oh,
is
it's
not.
so beautiful. So beautiful. What lights you up? Christmas is a very powerful time in my life. And
Mhm.
for me, it is my one granddaughter's birthday, and then Christmas, my other granddaughter's birthday, and oh, okay, New Year's, then one granddaughter's birthday, then another granddaughter's birthday, December, January. So much life birth. And for me, challenges because of the loss of a child. And this year, I'm able to help an organization get toys for a toy run. I've got until September 22nd. If you're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and you've got toys, please connect with me. I'm so excited. And it fell into my lap. I wasn't looking for it, and it lit me up.
Mhm.
Just lit me up.
Yeah.
And I manifested it, Kitty, because when you read my memoir, you're going to be like, oh my God, because that's last year's request and it's here.
And I do believe our manifestation grows as we practice the power of discernment, because I lay a new energetic path as I'm discerning yes, no, without the judgment, without the other tendrils that become part of it. I don't need to diminish anything to assess and be discerning. Nothing, you
Urban
know?
planning. Urban planning is when a person is dedicated by going to university in urban planning to plan a thing like a parking lot in a small city, and or a school, and they plan it according to structural allowances, and we have restrictions in all things in life. And when we start creating with the universe, there are no restrictions, there are no borders, there are no rules.
Well,
Those things.
it's accepting your path of energy. Like, I'm going to go back to what Dusty said. There are some not energetic math. It's all right. This is not my energy right now, and it becomes, you're right, the urban plan. I accept who I am, the energy. I use discernment to say, it's not what I'm ready to do. Next week, I might be ready to do this. I'm not ready to do it right now. Um, and I open then for the universe, for the energy I am ready to receive to come through. So
Yeah.
it really isn't energetic. Discernment is about assessment for our own energy, our own abilities at the moment. And it's for me, the difference between judgment and assessment and discernment is, if it's about me, and where I am, including not judging myself. Oh, I should be able to talk to this person. Why? It doesn't feel right.
Bring it back to simplicity, ladies and gentlemen. Please bring it back to simplicity. As simple as popcorn. Would you like some?
Yep.
What do you like on your popcorn? I love butter. I don't like that popcorn topping at the movie theaters. I don't like things that are topping. I prefer butter, like real butter, I don't believe it's not butter, it's butter. And I like salt and I like pepper. And I also love that Mexican tahini
Yep.
on my popcorn. And Ralph made me popcorn this week. He put salt and pepper on. I ate it. And then I had digestive fluctuations the next day.
Hey, popcorn can do that too. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a challenge this week for people to, when something occurs to you to do with discernment, just do it and see what unfolds from there. And including I get up and I've got to get some things done. I got to get some things done. See if you can move to, what is it I really want to get done? Sometimes it's, I want to sit on the couch. That's where I am. That's the discernment. Especially right now, we're practicing our responses. We are practicing so that we have a clear understanding. We're talking about Venus all month. What do I value? What brings me stability? Take the time this week with assessment to make your choices.
Big one.
Yep. Permission to breathe, permission to be. And, and pay attention to how you're speaking to yourselves about it. Are you calling yourself a slug? And if you love slugs, great. I have a friend who loves slugs. Or are you
Doug? And the slugs.
Yeah, I love sloths. So I instead of slugs, which I don't particularly like, I'm in sloth mode. I love sloths. Slowly moves the sloth.
Potato mode.
Yep.
On the couch potato, unless you look at that as an insult. Right. And if you're insulted, you're activated. And if you're activated,
there's a lesson to learn. We keep going in the circle.
Movement,
Yep.
Move off the couch. Pivot. Peeing helps.
Yeah. Pivot was another word that came this week, and something else. Pivot. Being able to. And when you don't know, it's all right to say, you know what, I don't know. That was a very powerful tool I learned in teaching. You know what, Mrs. Foss doesn't know. There was always a connection to say, I just don't know. I don't know what that is. Let's see if we can find it out. I personally think the internet's one of the greatest gifts as a teacher. Let's go find out what it says, It
is very much. It is very much. And at times when you're asking for assistance, like if I said to you, Kitty, I am struggling to understand my transits.
Yes.
And you said, just Google it.
Just Google it. Yeah. Just take a look at it. Take a look at what this means to you. Yep.
I don't understand what a transit is. Would you like to schedule some time with me? And I would love to help you.
Right. Just Google it, schedule some time. And that is it. Because a transit is like discernment. What is changing and making decisions around it. So.
Yes. Yeah. What bus are you hopping on?
And that is actually, I think, a piece of discernment is to learn to ask for help.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what my choice is.
And keep asking until the right person says, would you like to schedule an appointment?
It has the thing. Well, Nance, look, we're at an hour again.
We're at an hour again. It's been amazing. I love this time so much.
I do too. I very much enjoy it. I do. And we have some people who come steadily and other people who watch it afterwards. So it's great. So
it is. It really is. So thank you once again, everybody.
And we'll see you next week. Will be September. I'll see you in September. Yep.
Wow. Amazing.
Where did you go? Huh? Thank you, everyone. I'm not sure what happened to Nance. She seemed to have dropped off. So I'm going to say end the stream. I don't know if she got herself off there or what happened. So we will see you next week. Take care. Bye.